Hi, it's Robin. Today we'll be taking a look at Nox Archaist, which is a role-playing game for the Apple II line of computers, released recently in late 2020 by 6502 Workshop. I'll be running it on my Apple IIgs, which I recently outfitted with a Mockingboard soundcard and Floppy Emu disk emulator. Now note that this is an 8-bit Apple II game that will run on an Apple IIe, that's enhanced, or Apple IIc, or 2GS, with 128K RAM and either 2 floppy drives or a hard drive. I don't have 2 Apple floppy drives, so that's why I'm using the hard drive emulation of the Floppy Emu. And I'm using the 2GS because it's the only Apple II computer I have that accepts the Mockingboard, which is required for music playback. You can play the game without it, but then you only have sound effects from the built-in Apple II audio. I made a video about setting all this up that's on my second channel. There's a link in the video description if you want to watch that. From the Nox Archaist website, Nox Archaist is an evolution of the classic fantasy games of the 1980s, like Ultima, Bard's Tale, and Wizardry. Nox Archaist is set in a sinister world ruled by sorcery and swords. Adventurers brave enough to explore Nox Archaist will encounter engaging NPCs and a vast storyline within a non-linear world. Hordes of vile enemies will block your path to fame and riches. Gamers will enjoy features like skills-driven character development and strategic turn-based combat scenarios which integrate with the game's storyline and push the boundaries of the Apple II platform. Now, I only have the digital version of the game, but my friend David Yaud recently got the boxed physical edition, and he kindly offered to show it. So, over to you, David.
Hello, David Yaud here from the California Bay Area. Let's have a quick look at the physical game as this just arrived in the mail yesterday. Now, I completed this game about a month ago using PDFs of the world map and the instruction manual, so it's nice to finally have the physical copy in my hands at last. They're busy making another batch of these as the first batch is sold out. So this is my fancy letter opener. As you can see, it's not actually that sharp. So we got a wax seal here. Again, I'm going to reach for my +0 letter opener. So here's the writ from Queen Isa, which your character will possess in-game. You'll be showing that to guards. And yes, this is the cloth map. This shows much of Winmar Islands in Valley, and at the beginning your ship crashes. Maybe it rammed into the big compass on the corner, so that's where you start. So this little guy holds the emulator-based version of the game, the one with the new fleet option. Here's a sticker, very nice. We have a postcard, a Warman Winmar, wish you were here. And we got a challenge coin. Actually, this is the coin of the realm, the level up coin in the game, which your character will have. You'll appreciate that. And wrapped up here, we have a magic crystal. Maybe this is the one that King Silas stole from the underworld. Digging down, floppy disks. Very nice. And lastly, we have the manual. This is a thing of beauty. It's well over 100 pages. Yeah, I love the pen art. I highly recommend reading the entire thing before you begin playing. I know that takes discipline to do so.
Okay, thanks, David. So we'll boot up Nox Archaist. Just power on the Apple II here. And it's booting up off the floppy. Here we go.
Nox Archaist.
So I asked lead developer Mark Lemmert about some technical insights and some behind-the-scenes information about the making of this game. So Mark said that back in the 1980s, Dr. Cat developed a prototype for 5-bit pulse-width modulated PWM sound on the Apple II and published it in Soft Disk magazine. Mark and his team have recreated this PWM technique and use it for the voice and sound effects during the title screen, which makes this the first use of 5-bit PWM sound in a commercial Apple II game.
Nox Archaist.
And here on the title screen, we'll go into the acknowledgements. Here's the credits. Project lead, Mark Lemmert. You see many other people that helped with the making of this game. Lots of playtesters. And the Barons of the Realm, I believe those are the Kickstart backers. So we'll start a new game. Both will be erased. No! Well, I guess so. Create my character. Well, I think I have to go with the classic Sir Robin bravely ran away. Gender, male, female, or other. Well, I guess I'm feeling male today. And race, human, halfling, elf, dark elf, dwarf. I feel kind of like a dwarf, I guess. You are an adventurer trained under the order of Nox Archaist. Queen Isa has given you a writ of authority to investigate a strange new cult. Hearing rumors of a dark void tied to the cult, you have set sail for a nearby island. Once on board, you realize this is a pirate ship and the captain has been paid by cultists to sail straight into the void. When you protest, the captain knocks you out and throws you into the brig. As you wake, the ship enters a mighty storm. A fell voice on the wind whispers a name, Vazarath. Timbers burst, water pours in, and the ship begins to sink. You have a knife, the writ, and a bag of coins. Welcome to Valia, the world of Nox Archaist. And we're saving the game. Okay, so there's my character down at the bottom. And I walked east. And unlike most other RPGs from the 8-bit era, this game actually has a pretty thorough tutorial built into it. So here it's saying press O to open the door. And then it asks down at the bottom, direction. And I'll push the cursor up. Open door. And now you see the door has opened, so I can walk through. Continuing the tutorial, walk north to fight the rats. Press A to attack with a weapon. Press C to cast a spell. Use the arrow keys and spacebar to select a target. Okay, so I'll move up here. I'll press A for attack. Oh, they might have already attacked me. Fierce foes are before you. Tactical combat is advisable. And you can choose either quick or tactical combat. Quick combat's really only recommended once you're much more powerful than some of the other enemies. So whenever it's recommended or advisable, you should do tactical combat. So T. And we can move Sir Robin, the keyboard. And now A to attack. Select target. And we'll just press space. Missed. And the rat did no damage to us either. Up in the top right is both our health in the green and your magic points on the right, just represented as a bar. There, killed. Press escape to exit. And there we got 2 XP and 4 food found. Rat food. Well, rat is the food. So this is the shipwreck that we're on. We can move around. If we go up north, there's a ladder, and it automatically climbs up to the next floor. Now there's an NPC to the left. Tutorial, walk next to the pirate, press T to talk to him. Type in name, job, or any capitalized word he says to you. So T for talk, and again, just the direction. You see a disoriented pirate. He doesn't seem to recognize you as a prisoner and assumes you're part of the crew. We're shipwrecked, matey. You see how shipwrecked is in capital letters? I'm not sure what happened. And so every character, this is just the same as in Ultima 4. You can type in name. They call me Bristlebeard. And you can ask them what their job is. I be a boatswain on this here ship, or what's left of it. We're shipwrecked, matey. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so he obviously wants us to type shipwrecked. You can just actually type the first 4 letters of any keyword. The captain may have said something in his log about what happened. Log. Don't just sit there, you swabby. Help me look for it. It might be on this here bookshelf or in that there chest, or could be in the dresser in his quarters. So I like how they've captured this element from Ultima 4, which really is one of my all-time favorite games. Walk next to the bookshelf in the corner, then the chest by the pirate. So a key. When adjacent, press S to search for those objects for loot. So search, and we'll search east. Magic missile found. Right on. And if we walk up here, search north. Who will pick the lock? Sir Robin. Trap. Oh, you see I lost some HP there. Try again. Yes. Who will pick lock? Sir Robin. 10 gold found. So we still haven't found the log. Go north here. Okay. Door is closed, so open it. Tutorial. Walk east to the captain's quarters. Open. Tutorial. Walk next to the dresser. When adjacent, press S to search it. Okay. Captain's log found. To read the captain's log, press Tab twice to view the inventory. Next, find the captain's log item and press U to use it. Okay, so tap once shows the characters. Second time shows the inventory, and you can press the numbers at the top to look at the inventory. And here we are on page 4. We can go down and find the captain's log and then press U to use it. When we got close to the dark void, a strange storm rolled in. Those cultists and their infernal dark void mission have doomed us. I should have listened to Irene when she told me they were up to no good. Okay, and we'll escape out of there. To exit, leave by the door you came in. Okay, so yeah, we won't explore everything here. To exit the shipwreck, wade into the water. For now, avoid deeper water or you'll drown. Press L to look at the terrain. So we'll move down. And so this is the shipwreck. The water's coming in. Irene, the pub keeper in a town to the east, might know about the cult that caused the shipwreck. Press a key. This is your first quest. Press the slash key to view your quests. Okay, so we'll press slash. And again, unlike most of the RPGs of the era, this actually keeps track of your quests for you. Very much in the spirit of an 8-bit RPG. Well, it is an 8-bit RPG, but it has a bunch of modern features that make it more playable, more modern. So talk to Irene, the pub keeper in Everton, about the cult and follow up on her insights. So we'll do that. We'll go down here. Oh, we're in the water. And we'll walk to the east here. And here we are, walking in from the shipwreck. Don't go in that deeper water or you'll drown. And here's a town that we can go in. Here's the guards. Talk to the east. The guard glares. Papers? You hand over the writ from the queen. Welcome. So just like all good RPGs, there's these towns, there's lots of NPCs you can talk to. And of course this game's far too huge for us to really get a full sense of it in just a short walk through here. But we'll just go find Irene. Oops. Talk, and I think that's her. You see a saucy woman behind the bar. Welcome to the Scuttlebutt, where we talk trash and take it out. How about a drink? Sure. What would you like? A mug of ale? 1. There you go. Enjoy your mug. Okay, let's ask for name. Irene, usually. Job. I'm the owner of this pub. When people buy drinks, I pour them, usually. And let's ask her about that cult. I might know something about that. 1 gold might refresh my memory. Deal? Sure. I don't repeat gossip. Listen carefully. Several men working for Mox Archaist, how do you say that? A mage in Surveld Castle took a lot of interest in some black robe types in here the other day. Stay out of trouble. Okay. And who's this? Talk. You see a ranger. From the way she handles her crossbow, she appears very skilled in her craft. Name. My name is Armanel, I think. Job. I advise novice adventurers, and if you want a companion to join you on an adventure or looking for a skilled trainer, I usually know who to ask. Okay, so let's ask about join. Check with Bridget over by the town lagoon. In other towns, ask the pub keeper. They usually know who is looking for adventure. So let's try and find this Bridget. The classic RPG where you want to talk to them, but you can never get next to them. Stand still. So on the subject of characters moving around, apparently this game uses the A-star pathfinding algorithm, which I don't think any 80s RPGs used. The algorithm became much more popular in the 90s and beyond. It's an algorithm, a procedure for finding a path from one position to a destination, and it can make characters seem far more intelligent, that they won't get stuck so easily behind an obstacle when they want to move from one place to another. NPCs use it because as they go about their day, they actually go to different locations of town as time passes. As you can see on the right-hand side, it's 11:14 a.m. Boy, I hope this is okay there. Finally. Talk. East. You see an old sea dog who looks like he spends hours sitting on a stool. Well, this isn't Bridget, is it? My name is Styles Aranus. Sailing the seas. These days I do a lot of sailing, but mostly not at sea. Sail. Arg, not as safe as it used to be. Safe. Ships sailing west of here to the trading outpost Swanmouth have been disappearing. Make sure you have a sextant if you leave sight of land, matey. Okay. Sext. With a sextant, you can navigate by the stars. Beats dead reckoning any day, matey. Okay. I think that's who I'm looking for. Talk. You see a woman in armor. Name. My name is Bridget. Job. I hope to go on great adventures someday. Adventures. The wolves in the plains near Everton, plague travelers. I've been hunting them to practice my find skills. I always bring plenty of food. food. It's possible to forage for food in the wilderness, but I feel much stronger after eating purchased rations. Okay, purchase. I buy from Jorback's Adventure Provisions in the southeast part of town. And because we got that tip, let's try join. Let's go. Hunting is bare at night. We should buy some torches. Okay, now Bridget has joined our party. Can now see that she's in the party. And we can see that Bridget is a female human, level 1, 50 HP. She's already got a hunting knife and a wooden shield. David mentioned reading the manual. Even if you don't read the manual in full, definitely get yourself a copy of this quick reference sheet. If you press the question mark, it will give you a list of those different commands, or at least most of them. So again, that's something that like Ultima 4, Ultima 5 did not have. Quick save to slot 1. So I think that gives you an idea of the gameplay. This is just a very small part of this world. Now, for those of you without real Apple II hardware who are interested in playing this game, emulators are an option. In fact, the digital version of Nox Archaist comes bundled with an emulator ready to play on your Windows or Mac computer, or you can use a different emulator of your own choice. David's offered to show some details about the emulator experience, some interesting hacks, and different ways of using the emulator. So let's go back to David for a bit.
So Nox Archaist was designed to run on original Apple II hardware, and people like Robin with the retro gear are going to have the most authentic game experience you can have while playing it. I, however, am lazy, and I lean way into emulators. So I'm going to be briefly showing you today the different kinds of gameplay that's available when you have control over the emulation of Nox Archaist. On modern platforms, Nox Archaist comes with a version of Micro M8 as its built-in Apple emulator. The hard disk image, the HDV file, where your games are stored. This file can be moved at any time to other emulators besides the Micro M8. In my case, I'm using Windows, so I found it easy to switch over to Apple Win, where I have more control over the gameplay. You simply point it at the hard disk image and reboot. Using your Apple II emulator has advantages. For instance, when your entire party dies, normally you have to reboot the Apple II, and you can see how long that's taking to do right now. But if you're using an emulator, you just restore from your last memory snapshot without having to do the entire reboot. While Nox Archaist isn't particularly grindy, it's important for characters such as mages and thieves to practice their dodge skills, which they'll need to survive later in the game. Now, this isn't a gameplay tutorial, but I do want to mention that dodge skills won't help a character unless they have weight no greater than 8. And this really is a hard limit, meaning if you have a weight of 9 or greater, the dodge isn't going to save you. Now, in emulators such as Apple Win, this kind of grinding can be accelerated. The Nox Archaist quick reference tells you that in combat, Shift plus the character number selects only that single character for combat actions. The turns of the other party members get skipped. I'm going to select the Yofa character with Shift plus 5. Then in Apple Win, pressing Control 0 accelerates the gameplay. Now you just hold down the spacebar to grind. I found it useful to place a coffee mug on the spacebar just to keep the action going while I went off to do other stuff. For those who were sector editor warriors back in the day who think that tweaking 8-bit RPGs is part of the fun, you should familiarize yourself with what lies behind Apple Win's F7 key. You can take a look at code and data and make changes where you like. Perhaps you'll learn to cast some hex codes unknown to the mages of Valley. I know I sure did from time to time, and it still took me 120 play hours to win. Now onto the topic of mapping. The first dungeon I mapped fit onto this sheet of graph paper. Totally tractable. This was the bunny slope. But the second dungeon I mapped required that I extended it by many sheets of graph paper as I was going along. I found out on the forums that these levels can span a 256 by 256 tile range. This game is very big, at least by 8-bit standards. Fortunately, most of the large dungeons can just be sketched in terms of connectivity between long straight corridors, and a tiled perfect rendition like this one is not required. I'm sure fully fleshed out dungeon maps will start to appear online in the next few months, but they're not there yet. In the forums, many players are talking about using modern tools instead of graph paper. One effort worth highlighting is from a developer who goes by the handle Rickles. He uses the Steam program Grid Cartographer to generate a complete set of maps. Exporting from this tool, he has generously provided spoiler-free maps for anybody who wants them. They show many of the towns and castles, none of the dungeons. It's on his GitHub page here. And I think it's well worth your time to print this out and then take notes in the space provided at the bottom of each page, recording characters you've talked to, follow-up conversations you need to have. Personally, I don't have the best memory, so I had to invest a lot of time in careful note-taking to complete the game. Now, if you want an automated approach to mapping, you can purchase Grid Cartographer from the Steam store and add real-time auto-mapping to the game. Note this is a paid product. Personally, I'm at a place in life where I gladly trade money for time, so this made sense for me, but it's a departure from an original Apple II hardware play experience, that's certain. Rickles has created a custom build of Applewin that allows it to integrate with Grid Cartographer, which he currently links to at the bottom of his GitHub page. You'll also need to download this XML file, which glues Nox Archaist and Grid Cartographer together. What makes this modded Applewin different is that under the options there's a remote control checkbox. Make sure to check that. There's no need to look at the XML file, but it's kind of cool to see how the 64-bit mapping tool can be mapped onto an 8-bit game. Rickles defines every region in the game, so Grid Cartographer already knows their names, sizes, the number of floors, all before you even start exploring. This one line here specifies the Apple II memory locations that indicate which map the player is on and the player's X and Y positions. So in Grid Cartographer, click the game browser, then select Auto Tracking, and select the Nox Archaist XML file. After this step, Nox Archaist will appear in the Imported Profiles section. Then we go boot the modded Applewin emulator. I'm going to accelerate the boot. Grid Cartographer will detect the emulator. Click Yes to link to it, and then let the automapping begin. Grid Cartographer displays the emulator. Right now the map site has focus. When the emulator has focus, it'll accept all the keystrokes you'd normally use for gameplay. When you move around, it will automatically create a coarse tile-based map for you. Well, I got in a quick fight here. When your party is far more powerful than the enemy, you just select Quick Combat, and it will simulate the fight for you without having to go through all the steps. This is another way the game tries to reduce grinding. So once you see the tiles you can walk on, you can further annotate your map with niceties such as wall edges, stairs, obstacles, doors, secret passages, chest locations, bosses, any kind of text annotation you want, whatever your particular level of OCD demands. And to illustrate, I'm going to put some walls here around the areas I was allowed to walk. And then we came in on that ladder, so I'm going to go over and grab a staircase symbol and put that on the map where it belongs. So that's it. If any of the steps don't work for you, just head over to the forums. They're a friendly and responsive group. You can easily search the history for questions and answers that have already been asked and given. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you, Robin, for letting me play, and back to the main show.
So I'll talk a bit more about some of the technical aspects that Mark shared with me while I just play some gameplay footage in the background, some of which David collected for me. Thanks again, David. Mark said the primary goal of Nox Archaist was to create a fun game that computer role-playing game CRPG enthusiasts would enjoy playing. The 6502 Workshop team wanted to develop a modern version of the tile-based CRPG genre while exploring how gameplay might have advanced if large-scale development had continued on the Apple II platform after the 1980s. Should I mention how the C64 is the only 8-bit platform that got a port of Ultima 6? No. In the early stages of the project, they made several design decisions which weren't sure were actually possible. For example, most games just had a small 11 by 11 tile grid, but instead they went for a nearly full screen view, as you see, and instead implemented pop-up windows, which allowed for more room for the roster, dialogue windows, and so on. Another decision was using a class-free system where your abilities and skills determine how well you succeed at fighting, magic, and other tasks, as opposed to a chosen class. This was inspired in part by a desire to have a robust thief and assassin character track, two classes which tend to suffer in many RPGs from a lack of purpose other than lockpicking or backstabbing. Nox Archaist runs on the bare metal with no additional operating system such as DOS or ProDOS. Nevertheless, the file system is ProDOS compatible thanks to Qamba Pro RWTS disk drive controller. In addition to using less memory, Pro RWTS is about 7 times faster than WAS's original from 1979. The fast disk reads allowed us to build a number of features into the Nox engine that would not have been practical with the original controller. One example is special effects for spells. Those lightning bolts and exploding fireballs are all being read from the disk on the fly. Nox Talk is an Apple II scripting language created by 6502 Workshop to facilitate efficient and robust dialogue with NPCs. The language allows NPC interactions to set state flag values and be contingent upon those state flags. These flags can be used to guide NPC interactions and even to make dramatic changes to the game world. One of the more fun challenges in developing this game was the projectile launcher subroutine, which powers many of the spell effects. The subroutine is able to create spell shapes that span tile grid boundaries and fly across the screen at any angle in arcade game-like fashion. I asked Mark how he found the motivation to finish this huge, multi-year project, and he said the number one thing was sheer stubbornness. While as a kid it was acceptable to me to start creating a game and not finish it, now having the professional discipline that comes from managing many complex multi-year non-gaming projects, I was just simply unwilling to let years of work go to waste. There were other factors as well: the intrinsic desire to make an 8-bit RPG, a sense of creating a little piece of computer history through this project. That also kept me going through the highs. But during the lows, I think it was more sheer stubbornness that prevailed. One other thing I noticed with the music in this game is when you enter a town, music starts playing, but the music stops after a while, or if you talk to somebody, the music fades out and stops. In Ultima 4 and the C64, the music plays in a continuous loop. So I was kind of surprised and a bit disappointed by the way the music fades out in this game. Mark said this was largely a technical limitation of the Apple II. The Apple II's disk controller is software-based and highly dependent on timing, and the interrupts required to drive the Mockingboard music aren't compatible with those tight timing loops. That is, the timing of the disk controller's communication with the drive with the music interrupts active would result in bad data read or writes. Essentially, music can't play on the Apple II while the disk drive is in use. This is universal for all Apple II games. Of course, the C64 can handle this no problem, so score 1 for C64. The Apple II version of Ultima 3, 4, and 5 would also fade out the music when disk access occurs. Nox Archaist has a lot more disk access than Ultima or other Apple II games, which is key to how they made certain features possible, such as casting a spell in combat, which loads a block of code from disk, or every time you talk to an NPC character or perform other scripted actions, that all has to be loaded from disk and interrupts the music. So this is the solution they came up with, and Mark, clearly being an expert on the Apple II, I'm not going to argue with him, this seems to be the best solution. A potential spoiler warning: skip ahead to the next chapter in the timeline if you don't want to see a possible spoiler. This game has many very cool cameos. Most notably, Lord British himself from the Ultima series appears in the game. I'll show a little bit of footage of that, and he actually serves as a hint system in the game. Whenever you're stuck, you can go to Lord British and he'll tell you what to do next. And in the same area where Lord British lives is a portal that goes to another location that is full of Apple II luminaries, including famous game developers, and the guy who kicked off the Apple II himself, Woz. So congratulations to Mark and the whole Nox Archaist team on this release. It's an incredible achievement. If you're interested at all in RPGs, then definitely go and support this game. There will be a link in the video description to their website where you can purchase it. You should always be able to get the digital edition and see if they have any more copies of the physical edition. If they don't, then make sure you send them a polite request that you're interested in purchasing it so that perhaps they can do yet another run. Thanks to David Youd for his huge help in making this video. Please check out his YouTube channel. He's always working on interesting projects, many of which involve Commodore computers. He started his channel well before me and had some of the very first Commodore Easter egg videos I ever saw on YouTube, which were fascinating, and he does a lot more besides that. Thanks again, David. Thanks to my patrons on Patreon for their support. And thank you for watching. We'll talk to you next time.